I didn't like going to prison. Lost my family, lost everything I had. My wife divorced me first day home after 9 years. She was scared of the IRS too. And the IRS broke all kinds of laws to put me in prison. I didn't break any laws whatsoever. Watch that show, Open Letter to Donald Trump. But now, if you read 2 Corinthians chapter 1, sometimes God says things happen to you so that you can have a ministry to reach other people with the same problem. If you get in a car wreck and get your arm cut off, you can now have a whole ministry of reaching other people with one arm because you know what they're going through. A blind person can reach other blind people. A person who's been through a divorce can reach other divorced people because they know. So sometimes it's God's looking at the bigger picture. He wants to get people saved. And if he has to let you suffer for a while so that you're trained, I think the military trains their people and they go through a lot of suffering, don't they? Like crawl through the mud and, push-ups and chin-ups and they go through a lot of suffering. They're being trained to go do a job. I think the prison time was a training time to go do a job for the Lord.
Hey guys, the Jesus Magnet is now partnering with Witness merch. They've even got a Jesus Magnet tab on their site with our merchandise. Let's check out their video.
At Witness Merch, we're more than just a store. We're part of your faith journey.
Our mission is simple: to provide affordable and accessible Christian merch so you can wear your faith proudly.
Not only do we have a range of trendy Christian merch and gifts, but we also offer customization to reflect your faith.
And above all, every purchase helps gift God's word to others, spreading the gospel message wherever you go.
Dr. Kent, how are you? Great to have you on the Jesus Magnet podcast. I'm a huge fan. And before I get started, I'm doing a quick shout out to Vicky, who's one of our pastors at our church, and she is a massive fan of you. And when she was a little girl, she said that she wasn't able to watch much TV, but her parents gave her all these DVDs that you had produced and just binged watched a whole lot of your stuff well before you were on YouTube and all that. So just a quick shout out to Vicky. She's very excited to have you on the show.
Hi, Vicky.
Awesome. So thanks for coming on the show. I'm really excited to see what we're going to talk about. I've got a bunch of questions here, and definitely going to go into creationism and evolution and things like that. But I also really want to know some of your backstory on how you actually came to the faith, believing in Jesus in the first place. It's been such a strong Christian and such an advocate for apologetics. It'd be great to see how Christ really connected with your heart.
All right. Well, is that the first question?
That's the first question.
I was raised in Illinois, East Peoria, Illinois. My mom and dad, both Norwegians. Their parents were immigrants from Norway to Wisconsin and Minnesota. My dad was only a survivor of his platoon. He was a Marine sergeant, World War II. Brilliant man. Never raised his voice to me. Soft-spoken, and taught us boys everything. We knew how to do plumbing and electrical and mechanical and fix our own cars. And it was just almost ideal childhood. My mom was a kindergarten teacher for years. Taught us to read, to love reading, love books. And anyway, so. We went to different churches, though. We were Lutheran for a while, Mennonite for a while, Methodist for a while. And when I was 16, a friend of mine said, "Kent, are you going to heaven?" I said, "I don't know. I've been baptized, catechized, homogenized, pasteurized, circumcised. What else you got to do?" And he said, "Well, if you've sinned, you're going to hell." I said, "Well, yeah, I've sinned. Well, then you're going to hell." Anyway, so I ended up getting saved, gave my heart to the Lord, and became a child of God by receiving Christ, like the Bible says. And a girl at school asked me if I'd go to her church. I went to school, and I was pretty popular at East Peoria High School. I was vice president of the senior class and chess champion and all that. And she said, "Hey, would you like to come to my church?" I said, "Well, what kind of church is it?" She said, "It's a Baptist church." I said, "I've never heard of a Baptist church. What is Baptist? What do they do?" So anyway, I went and just fell in love with it and started listening to preaching for 5, 6, 7 sermons a week. I would take cassette tapes with me as I drove my Volkswagen back and forth to school. And just really made me grow by leaps and bounds in the Lord and the knowledge of His Word. I went off to Bible college, a Midwestern Baptist college in Pontiac, Michigan, and became ordained 1974. So I've been an ordained Baptist preacher now for 51 years. Ended up teaching high school science and math for 15 years. And when I moved to Pensacola in January of '89 to put my wife through college, music college, the neighbor kid said, "Would you like to take the paper?" I said, "Well, I don't have a parakeet. What else are they good for, you know?" And so he said, "Well, if I have an extra, I'll throw it in the yard." So picked up one of the papers one day, and it said, "Dinosaur bones found in Montana from 80 million years ago." I said, "Somebody's got to stop this." So I wrote my first ever letter to the editor. I said, "Folks, these dinosaur bones are from ones that drowned in the flood. The Earth is not millions of years old. Dinosaurs lived with Adam and Eve. Noah took them on the ark, probably babies. And after the flood, people killed some of them, called them dragons, and others just died from climate change. They couldn't live as long as they could before the flood." So anyway, they published my letter and started a war in Pensacola. Atheists were writing in, I was writing in, back and forth, letters to the editor. Finally, some students at the University of West Florida called me and said, "Kent, would you debate one of our professors? He's reading your letters to the editor in our class." I said, "I've never had a debate in my life, except with my wife. I lose those every time. But sure." So I did my first ever debate, late 1989, and there were about 1,200 people there, and a bunch of pastors came. And they began inviting me to come speak at their church. I'd been collecting stuff on creation for years, reading all the books by Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish and all these guys. And it just exploded into a full-time ministry. I was getting 900 calls. I was speaking 900 times a year all over the world, 37 countries. And then finally moved up here to Lenox, Alabama 9 years ago. So just straight north of Pensacola. It's a long story there. Okay, I don't want to monopolize your show. But anyway, yes, I've been trying to serve the Lord now for 56 years. Been great.
Wow.
Had it to do over again, I would.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you have obviously had a passion for creation and studying that. And I love that sort of stuff as well. But what I do want to know is, how was your mind, your heart, when it came to like a relationship with Christ? Did that come easy? Or did you fall in love with Christ as you're sort of studying creation and things like that?
I think you grow into it more. The longer you serve him, the more you love him. It's like a baby, they fall in love with mama. Now, mama's in love with the baby right away, and Heavenly Father's in love with us, but it takes a while for us to fall in love with him. And that comes with just reading the word. What really triggered a snap in my mind was when I led my first soul to the Christ. I was only been saved about 6 months, and I got to lead somebody to the Lord. I said, "Lord, I want to do this the rest of my life. Bring people to you." There's just no feeling like that. And so many Christians have never done it one time, never led anybody to the Lord. They read their Bible, they go to church, they sing the songs, but they're missing the greatest joy in the Christian life.
What would be your easiest approach to inviting somebody to a relationship with Christ? I mean, you can always debate people, and I love debates, but sometimes a debate can anger people too much to not be interested in Christianity as well. How do you balance that?
Well, yeah, I've had 389 debates with atheists at universities. I know how to anger them. That's no question there. But I think the simple question that I ask is, if you died today, where would you go? Not what church do you go to, not have you been baptized or catechized or circumcised. Where are you going when you die? And that makes people stop and think. And then you say, now, if you could know for sure you're going to heaven, would you be interested in finding out what God wants? One analogy that I use that seems to work really well, it triggers in people's mind, it triggers their thinking, like, wow, there's only two religions in the world, and that's Cain and Abel. Cain brought his fruit and vegetables. Hey, God, look what I did for you. God wouldn't take it. Abel brought a sacrifice. And most religions today are doing exactly what Cain did. They're trying to please God with their works. And they hope they're going to heaven because they go to church, they give money, they be good, they take care of the poor, whatever it is, climb up the steps on their knees and kiss the Pope's toe, whatever. That it's all Cain. It's just trying to please God with our work. I'm going to heaven because of what Jesus did, not because of what I do. And if it was dependent on me, I wouldn't make it. Nobody would. Okay. So I think when people realize, man, it's Cain and Abel. Abel brought a sacrifice. God wants a sacrifice. The only perfect sacrifice that'll get you into heaven is God himself. God gave his law. Nobody kept it ever. God said, look, I'll come down. I'll do this for you. God came down, became a man, Jesus Christ, lived a perfect life, didn't break any of the laws, and let them crucify him. And he was the sacrifice. And his blood is put onto my account. So I'm going to heaven because of what he did, not because of what Kent did. Now, because of that, I love him. I want to serve him. He's my master. But it's a voluntary servitude. I don't have to serve God. I want to.
That's a good answer. One of your, I think your biggest mic drop moment that I've ever seen with one of your debates, and I love it. I've actually used it from time to time, talking to unbelieving friends of mine, and it's where they say, "Where does God come from?" And I think I'll just, for our listeners, if you want to know where God comes from, just put that in YouTube, and Dr. Kent will be one of the first videos that comes up, and it's the best answer I've ever heard. I've almost memorized what you said. It was, where does God come from? That's assuming a limited God. My God came in with a continuum of space, time, and matter. Was it space? In the beginning, God created the heavens. No, in the beginning, that's time. God created the heavens. That's space, and the earth. That's matter. And there was a trinity of trinities with earth. No, what was it? Space, time. Space was length, width, height. Time is past, present, future, and space, solid, liquid, gas. A trinity of trinities. And it was like, I don't know how you say that stuff so fast. Even I'm struggling to just, I know it in my head, but I cannot get it out of my mouth so quickly.
Go ahead. All right, your question, where did God come from, assumes that you're thinking of the wrong, obviously it displays that you're thinking of the wrong God, because the God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he's affected by time, space, or matter, he's not God. Time, space, and matter is what we call a continuum. All of them have to come into existence at the same instant, because if there were matter but no space, where would you put it? If there were matter and space but no time, when would you put it? You cannot have time, space, or matter independently. They have to come into existence simultaneously. The Bible answers that in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. So you have time, space, matter, created a trinity of trinities there. Just, time is past, present, future. Space has length, width, height. Matter has solid, liquid, gas. You have a trinity of trinities created instantaneously, and the God who created them has to be outside of them. If he's limited by time, he's not God. The guy who created this computer is not in the computer. He's not running around in there changing the numbers on the screen, okay? The God who created this universe is outside of the universe. He's above it, beyond it, in it, through it. He's unaffected by it. So the concept that a spiritual force cannot have any effect on a material body, well, then I guess you'd have to explain to me things like emotions and love and hatred and envy and jealousy and rationality. I mean, if your brain is just a random collection of chemicals that formed by chance over billions of years, how on earth can you trust your own reasoning processes and the thoughts that you think? Okay, so your question, where did God come from, is assuming a limited God, and that's your problem. The God that I worship is not limited by time, space, or matter. If I could fit the infinite God in my 3-pound brain, he would not be worth worshiping, that's for certain. So that's the God that I worship. Thank you.
And my question is when people give you these questions that I would think would be very difficult to answer, have you got something that's memorized? And how do you not stumble across your words? Or it's just a constant study that the answers are right at the edge of your tongue the whole time? How do you do that? Prepare yourself for those hard questions.
Well, I guess Dr. Johnny Pope is pastor of a nice big church in Houston, Texas. His dad, Julian Pope, was one of the teachers at our school in Texas when I lived in Longview. I asked him, I said, Dr. Pope, how do you know God's will for your life? He said, oh, that's easy. I said, well, tell me, I'm going to write this down. He said, you find a need and you fill it. What did God equip you with? I can promise you, God does not want me to be a mother. Okay? Not going to happen. Okay? So you got to look at what do I have and what can I do with it for the kingdom of God? He said, Kent, where's the greatest need you see? What's the greatest need in the world? He said, don't tell me, think about it. That's probably what God's calling you to do. Well, at the time, there were people out there speaking on creation, Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish, and I read all their books and devoured it. But there's really smart guys. And when they get all done talking, you say, wow, what did he say? Because they're using all the $10 words. I said, we need somebody to dumb this down and keep it simple so everybody can understand it. And so I've worked for the last 35 years now, full time. I'm absorbed. I'm eaten up with this idea of getting the creation message and all the objections the atheists bring and answering their questions and providing an answer that everybody can understand. As a new Christian, I nearly got tripped up in my faith going to a Methodist church camp. The counselor told us, boys in the camp, he said, boys, I told him I was become a Christian. He said, well, the Bible's got contradictions in it. I'm a brand new Christian. I said, like what? He said, well, chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Genesis, they contradict each other. And he read the 2 chapters to us boys in the cabin there, and sure enough, it looked like a contradiction. And it just about destroyed my faith. But now it's an easy one to answer, okay? There are no contradictions in the Bible. So anyway, that led me to it's a passion of mine. I spend hours and hours every day working on my PowerPoint presentation, producing materials and videos. We are on about 9 different channels. They're all listed on drdino.com, our website, DRDINO. And we have one, I think I've answered most of the commonly asked questions that atheists bring up. So because I do it so often, it's right at the front of my mind. When I talk trigonometry, I could rattle off the trigonometry formulas. Go ahead.
Is there one that's really got you by surprise? I suppose you would have the top 10 that are very common, and most people would have the issue of morality, and even when you're discussing evolution and stuff. But is there any that you've gone, oh, I actually don't know the answer to that, or I don't know how to compute that when it comes to the Bible, or have you found it pretty consistent, like relying on the word?
Yeah, I get new stuff all the time, and I say, wow, it's interesting. Let me check on that, and I'll get back with you. And I try to get back with them and say, well, there is an answer to that. Like how many chariot horses did Solomon have? One says 4,000, one says 40,000, the 2 different accounts. But I cover all those supposed contradictions. Joseph, can you put my screen up so people can get my contact info? Move me over. There you go. Well, I can't quite see it there. No, he'll get it on his end. Okay.
I can
there we go.
Make sure there's all the contact info. Yeah. I'm going to put up slides myself and edit this afterwards. So yeah, I'll have it all pretty across your screen.
Okay. I really want to help answer questions of people that are genuinely concerned. Like, what about this? Now you'll find the atheists, as soon as you answer 10 questions and you to their satisfaction, they go on to 10 more. They don't want an answer. They don't want God telling them what to do. So you're kind of wasting time, I tell people, if you're going to plant a garden to feed your family, half of your yard is good dirt, half of it's rough clay and soil, not good dirt. Well, plant the good dirt first. Get your crop started. If you get time, go work on the hard rock. If you don't get time, oh well. So I spend most of my time trying to help Christians who want to know, and I'm not going to waste all my time trying to plow a rock, because one hard-headed atheist. If I spent 25 years, I might win him to the Lord, maybe not. Meanwhile, I can win 40,000 other people to the Lord who want to know. So yeah, my philosophy is I don't waste a whole lot of time on them. I challenge them to a debate. I want to do the debates publicly because it helps many other people. That debate you mentioned where I did three atheists against me, he said, where did God come from? That has over 950 million views.
Oh, that's probably good.
Almost 1 billion.
I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to, but I'm going to see if I can slip it in to this episode. I'll edit it in so people can see it.
2 minutes long. He said, where did God come from? My 2-minute answer. And please spread it. I've never copyrighted my stuff. You're welcome to spread it around the world. Brother, when I started this ministry 35 years ago, we had a VHS tapes. Now it's DVD. But people would say, oh, can I borrow your tapes? I used to loan my videos out. I learned right away. Christians don't steal, but they borrow and never return. And so I don't loan them out. I said, look, I'll sell you the whole set for $50. When you're done, bring it back, get your money back.
Hey, good. Nice.
I don't think anybody has ever brought them back to get their money back. I would. Still my policy today. You buy my video series. Not that one. This one. 18 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's on making babies. I do all kinds of videos. We're on
the Creation Seminar series.
Creation Seminar series. 18 hours, $50, and it answers so many questions. And I use lots of visuals and references, and we have over 50,000 slides in PowerPoint. You can get all my slides on a thumb drive for $100. Go to our website, drdino.com.
Cool. We're going to put all the descriptions in.
Yeah, Joseph will put all that in there.
Okay? Yeah, we'll put all the links in the description for everyone. Make it nice and easy, and highly recommend you guys to all our listeners to go check it out. Honestly, Dr. Kent, it's quite cool actually being able to talk to you. You're definitely one of the heroes of faith. You've definitely helped me in solidifying my doubts. Sorry, not solidifying my doubts, solidifying my faith regardless of my doubts.
Right.
I've got a question for you with evolution. Now, you've gravitated towards evolution, and I'm assuming because you read in the Bible, and you got a worldview of young Earth. You also mentioned something in a video that I saw just the other day where young kids have in every single science book, at the very start of their book, it says millions of years ago. So they're brainwashed from a very, very young age. How did you not be brainwashed? Like, how did you even get to the point of believing in young Earth? Or was it purely just from reading the Bible and that was your conclusion? Or did you have a mentor, or how did that work?
Well, I was definitely brainwashed like everybody else. I got all the books in kindergarten, boys and girls, dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, and that's what you're taught. They keep reinforcing that year after year after year. And so when I was 16 and started reading my Bible, when I got saved, I said, whoa, somebody is wrong. I taught math and science, and I love those topics. And so as I came to Genesis 5, it gives a bunch of dates. So I made a graph. We've improved it several times since then. But here's a chart of the dates given from Genesis 5, before the flood came in the days of Noah. The people are living to be 900 years old. And it gives them, Adam was 130 when his son was born. He was 105 when his son was born. So you graph it out or add them up. Then after the flood in Genesis 11, it picks up the story again. It gives a bunch more dates, how long they lived. But it dropped off to 400 and 200 and 100. And today, not many make it to 100. So right away, as a young Christian, I was very wondering several things. Wonder what these numbers add up to. And you can add them all up pretty easily, and you get about 4,000 BC for the creation, so 6,000 years ago. And then I said, wait a minute, why did they live to be 900? What was different back then? And then, obvious question, if the Earth is indeed only 6,000 years old, and it is, where do dinosaurs fit into the picture? So I was faced with a whole plethora of questions as a young Christian that I wanted to get an answer. I want to figure this out. What happened here? So God is good. I don't have all the answers yet, but I got most of them, I think.
Nice. One of your things that you've mentioned is an ice dome around the Earth during the time of Noah, or before Noah's flood.
Right.
And look, you've got a snow globe thingy to show. How did you get? So that's to do with the firmament and the description of how God's creating everything. Is that right?
Well, the Bible says in Genesis chapter 1, when God made the earth, there was water above the firmament. That's what it says. And then it says the firmament is where the birds fly. Well, duh, that's got to be the air we're breathing. They don't fly in the dirt. So there used to be a crystal canopy of water, ice, above the atmosphere. That's now gone. It was destroyed at the flood when the fountains of the deep broke open. I could take an hour to explain all that, but that crystal canopy above the atmosphere, and some creationists don't believe in that. That's fine. They can believe what they want, but I don't work for them. Okay, I believe it's true. I believe that crystal canopy overhead. The Jews have always taught there was a firmament, a crystal canopy, 2 or 3 fingers thick, above the atmosphere. That's part of their standard tradition of the Jews. That was destroyed at the flood. That crystal canopy would do many things. It would increase air pressure by squeezing the air down into maybe 10 miles instead of 50. Making breathing much easier. If you ever climbed a mountain where you have really tall mountain, you can hardly breathe up there. The air's too thin. And they find dinosaur bones. There's no question dinosaurs lived and they got huge. But an 80-foot apatosaurus would have nostrils the same size as a horse. How's he going to breathe? Today, he couldn't. That's why there aren't any 80-footers roaming around. But before the flood, they could. They find 50-foot wingspan pterodactyls. Well, they couldn't possibly fly today. The air is too thin. But if you compress the air, they could fly. See? Anyway, so I cover all that in video number 2.
Yeah, I am a paraglider as a sport. And I can definitely vouch for that as air gets compressed, especially in colder air. Colder air gets compressed sometimes, and it does make it easier to fly.
Right.
That's true. So I have a question on, um, actually, let me go to the question so I don't forget it. This is from one of our listeners asking angels. When do you think angels were made chronologically? Bit of a
We know
random
that they
question.
okay, we know let's get all the facts together before we synthesize an answer here. The Bible's very clear the angels were created. Even Lucifer was created. Read Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. Couldn't be more clear. And Lucifer was in Eden until as a good guy. He rejoiced to see the foundations of the earth laid. All the angels did. So we know that all the angels were good, including Lucifer. All of them were created. And we know that everything in heaven and earth was created in 6 days. We see that in the Ten Commandments, Exodus 20:11 and Exodus 31. So if everything was created in 6 days, Lucifer was created, angels were created, they had to be made during those 6 days. And we know that they rejoiced when the foundations of the earth were laid. Well, I take that to be day 3 when God made the dry land appear. So the best I can figure out, the Bible doesn't tell us specifically, but I think angels were made on day 1 or day 2, and they were all perfect. I think Lucifer saw this garden and saw Adam and Eve praising God. He said, they should be praising me. I'm strong, I'm handsome, I'm pretty, I'm rich, whatever. And it went to his head. And Lucifer fell probably 100 years after the creation. The only dates we have to go on to make you guess at this, Adam was 130 when Seth was born. Before that, they had Cain and Abel, but no dates are given. Cain and Abel got old enough to get in the fight, and Cain killed Abel. Okay, let's assume they're in their 20s when this happens. So Adam and Eve could have been in the garden for 100 years. Satan got jealous of them serving God. Satan fell from heaven. He went down and tricked Eve. Eve gave to her husband. He said, "Oh, brother, if I don't do this, I got to rescue you and my wife." I think Adam was not deceived. He did it voluntarily. Became sin to save his wife. I think it's a type of the bride of Jesus dying for us. But so I would guess angels were made on day 1 or day 2, and some of them fell and followed Lucifer probably 100 years later because of those. That's the only way I can get the pieces, Sudoku puzzle, get pieces to fit.
That's good. Here's a theory that I've wanted to ask you. And so what have you thought of have you came across the theory which Noah's flood was the second flood and the first flood was in the very beginning where there's waters around the earth?
Yeah. That's called Lucifer's flood, right?
Yeah.
It's not,
yeah.
I don't believe it at all. I think it's silly.
Okay.
I think what's happened in the early 1800s, some people started teaching the earth is millions of years old, which is not true. But many people think, oh, wow, scientists are saying it's old. We got to make the Bible say this. So they began looking for ways to twist the scriptures to fit this new scientific theory rather than analyze this new theory, But they decide, okay, we know the earth is millions of years old, and that's what they build on. You don't know the earth is millions of years old. 6,000 is a long time. It's hard to think about Columbus trying to find this place 500 years ago.
Sure.
That's 500. Okay. 6,000 is a long time. So plenty of time. And Noah's flood explains all the fossils we find, all the layers of earth that we see, the canyons and formations, the mountains. I cover that on video number 6 of my series. So, yeah, the Lucifer flood idea is I think, stupid.
Okay. That's good. I was just, it came up and I think there was one of my friends who is really into this sort of thing. He was telling me about a pre-Adamic race that was
can't be true.
Yeah, yeah. Before
here's why it can't be true. In the 10 Commandments, God said, "I want you to work 6 days and rest 1," because God made everything in 6 days in heaven and earth. Well, then there wasn't anything pre-Adamic. Romans 5 and 1 Corinthians 15 tells us man brought death into the world. By one man, sin entered the world, and death by sin. That
so
man
death
was Adam.
wasn't a thing before then. Okay.
There was no such thing as death. So you can't. What happened to this pre-Adamite civilization?
Right.
They all died. There's your flaw. Okay. No, not true. Jesus said clearly in Matthew 19:4, Mark 10:6, that the creation of Adam was the beginning. That's the beginning. So the whole purpose of that pre-Adamite stuff is to try to make the Bible, stretch the Bible to say billions of years. And it doesn't say that, and it's not true. We don't need to fit the Bible into that stupid theory.
I love your bluntness. It's awesome. What's your advice for young believers that they struggle to see young Earth over the millions of years old? What would be like the strongest piece of evidence that is easily digestible for our listeners that might be skeptical on this front?
I think anybody coming out of a religion they were brought up with, like a Muslim, when they finally start really studying everything and they realize, man, I've been taught something wrong. It's a very difficult transition. All the kids brought up in Nazi Germany, they were taught Hitler's wonderful. He's the greatest guy ever, Heil Hitler and all this stuff. And it was hard to come out of it, to unbrainwash, to get deprogrammed. Same thing with someone growing up in a communist country, okay, or a Buddhist country. It doesn't matter. So the evolution is a religion that people believe in very strongly. And it's hard to get unbrainwashed from that. Like, man, I mean, the Earth, for instance, the Earth cannot possibly be billions of years old. I use the illustration in my seminar. If I told you this ink pen was, I usually use a Bic ink pen. If I say this ink pen, ballpoint pen, is 5,000 years old, you say, wait a minute, it's a ballpoint. Ballpoints weren't even invented till 1888. Oh, one fact proves my claim of 5,000 is wrong. Just that one fact. Then you say it's made out of plastic. Plastics weren't invented until 1907. There's another fact that proves my 5,000-year claim is wrong. Then you say, wait, it's made by Bic. Bic wasn't even a company till 1946. So with three simple facts, you proved my claim of 5,000 is wrong. I still don't know when the pen was made, but I know it's after 1946. It's not 5,000. You understand? So I can't prove to you scientifically the Earth is 6,000 years old. The Bible teaches that, and I believe that. But I think I can prove to you it's not billions of years old. For example, the Earth is up, we're standing on the Earth right now, and the Earth is spinning. The Earth spins around once a day, but it slows down. The Earth is slowing down 1,000th of a second every day, and they know why. There's what's called lunar drag, there's tidal friction, there's the Coriolis effect, the wind against the mountains. There are known factors. Any spinning object is going to slow down, especially if it has liquid. Both the water and the air are considered liquids, and they're both moving. That's going to create friction and going to slow it down. Just type in leap second. They have to have a leap second about every year and a half now to get the clocks right because the Earth is slowing down. Okay, who cares? Well, if the Earth is slowing down, that means it used to be going faster. How far back in time can you go before that would make a problem? The faster it spins, the more it bulges out at the equator like a frisbee, and the greater the winds are, the Coriolis effect and the tidal circulation. It would cause enormous problems if the Earth were spinning a whole lot faster. The daylight darkness cycle, So that's just one. Then you say the moon. I got a moon here somewhere. Here we go. Okay. The moon is going around the Earth. And the moon is gradually getting farther and farther away from the Earth. We're losing the moon 1.5 inches a year. Just Google lunar recession. I think all the scientists know the moon is leaving us 1.5 inches a year. Okay, well, that means it used to be closer. Like, duh. How far back can you go in time before that becomes a problem? If you bring the moon back in closer, the tides would become much higher. And there's a law called the inverse square law. If you brought the moon into 1/3 the distance, you take that fraction 1/3, inverse it, flip it over, and square it. It's 9 times the pull. The gravitational pull is 9 times greater if the moon is 1/3 the distance. They've done all the studies on this and say the lunar orbit would collapse like two magnets, snap together when you get them too close. The Earth-Moon orbit would collapse about 1 billion years ago. Okay, so why are we teaching the kids the Earth is 4.6 billion years old? It's just not physically, forget the Bible. It's not possible just because of the moon and the spin of the Earth. Then you step outside, you look up and you see the sun is burning. So you do a bunch of scientific experiments, check it all with a telescope. You find out the sun is burning 5 million tons a second. And it's losing 5 feet an hour. The sun is shrinking by 5 feet every hour. just because it's burning up fuel. Okay, well, it's awfully big, 880,000 miles, so it's not going to burn up anytime soon. But the sun is obviously a burning object. It's going to be losing material, losing mass, and shrinking in diameter. Well, that creates a problem for those who want billions of years, for the Earth to be billions of years old. It's not possible. I go through, on my video number 1, I go through probably 30 scientific ways to prove this Earth is not billions of years old. The Great Barrier Reef, there where you guys are, in New Zealand or Australia. During World War II, a lot of the reef was destroyed by ships and anchors and bombs and stuff. They even blasted holes through it to get ships through there. They watched how fast does it grow back. When they studied it and watched how fast the coral reef grows back, they did that number, how fast it grows, into the size of the whole reef and said, wow, the reef is less than 5,000 years old. I would agree. There was a flood 4,500 years ago.
Yeah.
That's when it started growing, after Noah's flood. So there's just so many indicators. I'm sorry, it can't be billions of years old. If you need billions of years for your theory, you need to get a new theory.
Yeah. Can I ask, what's your thoughts on why people, like, what's the scientific community's agenda for pushing the millions of years, billions of years old universe?
Yeah, there's only two choices. Somebody made the world, or the world made itself. Nobody's thought of a third choice. If somebody made the world, that would mean he owns it, he makes the rules, and he owns the place. So they don't like his rules, so they deny his existence. They don't want there to be a God. I was debating an atheist one time, and I said, do you believe in evolution because you really have some scientific evidence? He said, or because you really like the freedom it gives you from God. He was quiet for a minute. He said, I believe in evolution because I'm horny. I said, every male of every species in the world understands that one, from termites to whales. But that's not a reason to reject God.
Yeah.
They don't want the Bible says in Romans chapter 1, they did not want to retain God and their knowledge. So God gave them up. Read Romans 1. He gave him up, he gave him up, he gave him over. It's in there 3 times.
It sort of just pushes the can down the road, though, because let's say it is billions of years old, there still needs to be somebody to create everything in the first place. Like, it can't create from nothing. Like, just adding age to something doesn't solve the biggest issue of if the Big Bang, which is when God spoke things into existence, if that happened 6,000 years ago, or if that happened I don't know how many billions of years they say, it just kicks the can down the road, doesn't it? They still have the issue of God.
Well, that's why his question, when he asked me, where did God come from, assumes a God that had to come from somewhere. What if God is eternal? What if he's not stuck in time? We are the ones that are stuck in time. Have you ever wished you could go back 5 seconds to undo the dumb thing you just did? You ever had that experience like, oh, wow, I should not have done that. Okay, I shouldn't have slammed my thumb in the door. God doesn't have that problem. God is right now standing at your funeral and watching you be born. And God is completely outside of time, space, and matter. That won't fit in our human brain. But God, if he's God, has to be outside of those things. I used the illustration with the professor. I said, the guy who made this computer, he's not inside there running around changing the numbers on the screen. Okay? He's outside of the computer. The God of this creation, he created time, space, matter for us. We're the ones that need time, space, and matter, not him. He's not affected by it at all. If God is limited by time, well, then time is God, not God. And see, the question, where did God come from, is called an invalid question. If I asked you the question, Joel, why are elephants orange? How would you answer that? You wouldn't even answer the question.
Yeah.
They're not orange. You can't tell me why they're orange, because they're not orange, okay? So where did God come from has 4 words that just don't apply. Where, that involves location. What if God's already in every location? Did involves time, right? Where did, we'll stop right there. What if God's already everywhere at all times at the same time? Now, my brain won't hold that, but I can say it.
It's hard to think about.
And then, where did God come from? Again, distance, location. He's already there. So the question is invalid. It's like, why are elephants orange? Sorry, they're not orange. Where did God come from? He didn't. He just is. That's why God said to Moses said, Lord, Pharaoh's not going to let him go. He said, Moses, you tell God, you tell Pharaoh, I am sent you. I am.
How
So when
how
Jesus told the people, I am, they wanted to stone him because they knew he's claiming to be God because he
Yeah.
was God. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was being very clear, especially to the Jews. Uh, so for those Christians that do lean towards old old earth theology, millions of years old, and they believe in the Christian God of the Bible, do you see that as a big issue or a small issue?
I see that as a big issue for them. It's like they're still sucking on that pacifier. There's nothing in it, guys. Give it up. Okay. You're 40 years old. Give the pacifier back to mommy. Okay. The idea they want to somehow think they're scientific and, because they think it's already been proven the earth is old. I've got to believe it to please my friends. No, you don't. You stand on truth. Truth is truth if nobody believes it. Okay. Doesn't matter what side, how many people are on your side. So I think the idea that the earth is billions of years old just really is kind of a recent thing, the last couple hundred years. And it started back in the 1800s with the people who wanted to get rid of God. They didn't want God telling them what to do. Maybe a little before that, 1776, the guys that started this country, they threw the tea in the harbor and started a big war, okay? And they said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. They're endowed by their creator with certain rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Where do rights come from? You have the right to breathe. You have the right to get married. You have the right to build a house. Where do rights come from? Do they come from God or do they come from government? And there were some people who wanted different philosophies of government, like communism and socialism, etc. They said, well, rights come from the government. You got to get our permission to build your house on your property. That's where it's gone to, hasn't it? You got to get our permission to drive on our highway. Well, that's reasonable. They built the highway. They own it. If you have your own property, you can go as fast as you want. There are no traffic laws on your own property. Problem is, I don't own that road. That belongs to them, so I got to obey their rules. Just like if I go into your house, I would obey your rules. Japanese houses, I was over there in Japan, you got to take your shoes off when you come in. Okay. That's their rule. That's their house. I don't have that house. I don't have that rule at my house. Okay. So I think since God owns this world, God created it, he owns it, he can make the rules. But in the early 1800s, we had some really strange philosophies of government. Nazism, socialism, Marxism, communism. God was an obstacle to their political agenda. Get rid of God. So that was the driving force, I think. Either spoken or unspoken. That was what's behind the scenes.
So for this next question, I'm gonna just hit a mark on my side so that I know exactly what time that I've asked this question. But where is it? Mark clip. Cool. You don't have to answer this. We can stay on the creation side of it. But I do want to ask if you're open to talking about it. You did end up going to prison for a little while. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that. Yeah, a little while. 9 years, was it? Yeah, if you could talk about that, because I think it's important for some Christians. Like, my favorite person in the Bible is Paul in the Bible, and he was in prison all the time. So
half the Bible's written from. I think even Jesus got arrested, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
there's absolutely no judgment on my side, but I do want to. I want to talk to you about how you felt going through that. Did you feel that did it deepen your faith? Did your faith get lessened? All that sort of stuff, if that's all right. Or we can stay on the creation stuff.
Okay, I've been a Baptist preacher 51 years, and in 2006, a SWAT team came to my house in Pensacola, Florida, and arrested me and my wife, took her out of bed in her nightgown, wouldn't let her get dressed. We got onto the courthouse. I said, what am I being arrested for? They said, for structuring. I said, I don't even know what that is. If you go back, all my channels are listed on drdino.com, DRDINO. Go to the link. Is that it for open letter to Donald Trump? Is that it, Joseph? Okay. Click that link right there. February 1st, 8 months ago, I did an open letter to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, here's what the Justice Department did to me. I broke no laws at all. I give a 30-minute answer to that. You don't have to break the law to go to prison, okay? I wrote a book on the subject called The Kennel, about the prison system is a money-making racket. Judges and congressmen and police officers can own stock in the prison system. So the longer they lock you up and the more people they lock up, the more money they make. I think that ought to be illegal, Mr. Trump. Would you stop that? Nobody involved in making laws or enforcing laws should be allowed to be profiting from the prison system. So get my book, The Kennel, if you want that. But anyway, in the Bible, there's no prisons authorized by God. Read the Bible, read the laws of God. The punishments are you fine them, you steal my sheep, you pay back 4 sheep, and you go home. No prison. Fine them, beat them, certain numbers, never more than 40. For certain crimes, you get a whipping. No matter if you're a grown man, you get a whipping. Or kill them. For certain crimes, you ought to be executed. If somebody breaks into your house and rapes your daughter, she doesn't need to pay his groceries for the next 20 years while he's in prison and then worry about him getting out. She needs to watch him get executed or shot or hung and go spit on his grave so she can heal psychologically, okay? So fine him, beat him, or kill him. That's under God's law. And so the prison system is totally wrong, but the judges and lawyers, they can profit from that. So the judge is thinking, well, let's see, I own stock in that prison. Should I lock him up for 5 years or 10 years? Let's make it 10. It's just that simple. It's all money motivated. So I did not break any laws. Read that. It's a long answer, 30 minutes on that show. Open letter to Donald Trump. I didn't break any laws. The government broke 100 laws to put me in prison. As far as what it did for me, well, I wrote 37 books while I was in prison. I earned 2 more doctor's degrees.
37 books while in prison.
Yeah, I led 800 men to the Lord. I answered 8,000 letters. They moved me 32 times while I was in prison. They do that to try to get people killed because they hope you get with a vicious roommate, 32 times in 9 years, all over the place. Yeah.
Your faith didn't change, but were you thinking, why am I here, Lord? If you love me, why would you put me here? Or were you seeing like him use you every day?
Well, I wrote 7 books with the same title. Why on earth did God let this happen, for heaven's sake? I wrote these from prison. They're short letters, and I started off with just writing to Bible characters. Hey, Paul, you're in prison. How you doing? And I'd write back and forth to the Apostle Paul. And then, of course, I was making up his answers based on what he says in Scripture. Then I invented what they call Knee-mail. With email, you can talk to people anywhere in the world if they're alive. But with Knee-mail, on your knees, Knee, with Knee-mail, you can talk to people in the past or present or future, anywhere. Of course, I made it up. I had conversations with Job. Hey, Job, how you doing? Bildad, one of Job's friends, written to Bildad from Job. So Job is writing to Bildad, hey, you've accused me of all these sins, show me some proof. It was just really a fun book to write. A letter from Daniel to God. Daniel says, Lord, they're going to throw me in the fiery furnace or in the lion's den in just a few minutes here. Why are you allowing this?
Yeah.
And God says, oh, Daniel, I've got a much bigger picture I'm looking at. You'll be fine. Wait till you see what I do with this. God sees a much bigger picture. I was high school chess champion. I don't have time for it anymore. I don't have any interest in it. But a good chess master, he will see the bigger picture. I wrote one in here. The bishop wrote to the queen. Or the bishop wrote to the chess master. Why did you move me over here? Don't you know they're going to kill me? They're going to take me. Oh, yeah, I know. But it's going to open up this over here, and I'm going to win the game. Because of your sacrifice, I'll win the game. Wow. So the bishop, the bishop is writing on, the little chess piece, is writing to the chess master. Sometimes we don't understand why God does things. I didn't like going to prison. Lost my family, lost everything I had. My wife divorced me first day home after 9 years. She was scared of the IRS too. And the IRS broke all kinds of laws to put me in prison. I didn't break any laws whatsoever. Watch that show, Open Letter to Donald Trump. But now, if you read 2 Corinthians chapter 1, sometimes God says things happen to you so that you can have a ministry to reach other people with the same problem. If you get in a car wreck and get your arm cut off, you can now have a whole ministry of reaching other people with one arm because you know what they're going through. A blind person can reach other blind people. A person who's been through a divorce can reach other divorced people because they know. So sometimes it's God's looking at the bigger picture. He wants to get people saved. And if he has to let you suffer for a while so that you're trained, I think the military trains their people and they go through a lot of suffering, don't they? Like crawl through the mud and, push-ups and chin-ups and, they go through a lot of suffering. They're being trained to go do a job. I think the prison time was a training time to go do a job for the Lord. I hope I'm done. But, Yeah.
I'm really happy with your answer there, Dr. Kent, because primarily the Jesus Magnet podcast, which is the show that you're on now, is primarily a testimony-based podcast where people go through hardships and they go through trials, and we believe wholeheartedly. I am a New Zealander, but currently I actually live in Thailand, and we are working with missionaries, getting their stories on the podcast because they're
Okay.
doing amazing things for the Lord. And their testimonies, we have Free Burma Rangers that go into Myanmar, and sometimes they die and they see horrible things, but they're bringing a gun and a Bible into battle and saving people physically and bringing the Lord to save them spiritually. So I really did want to ask that question for I would say, you can correct me if you're wrong, but probably your hardest point in life, the lowest point that you've been in, and how you responded to that as beautiful. You wrote books, you led people to the Lord, you treated it as training. So much respect for you, Dr. Kent. Awesome. I just think that's amazing. And so do our listeners. And I honestly, I think that made your ministry more powerful going through that than if you had never gone through that. Your ministry might have never got to where it is now. So it's, yeah. I think if
Amen.
God was to say, I'll do it again, he would use you in that way again, for sure.
Well,
Fortunately,
I'm hoping he does it with somebody else this time.
yeah, please not me, Lord. It's a scary thing. So your faith you never doubted in even the first couple of weeks or of being in a prison cell? Was there a moment of darkness?
Oh yeah, you go through definitely a roller coaster of emotions. That's normal, and so that's why now I can understand prisoners. I got some people in jail right now contacting me. They call me every day. Look, I need $20 for this. I'm trying, you get desperate. I mean, $10 means a fortune when you can't, you know, the prisons do everything they can to make it tough on you. So I help prisoners. We donate our videotape series to prisons. If you know somebody that runs a prison, they have to give them to the chaplain. And probably over 1 million people in jails have watched my videos and gotten saved. They watch them. Yeah,
Amazing.
wow. Now they're a captive audience. It's a good way to reach the gospel, get the gospel to people. Maybe some people are so busy with their little life, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever, they got to get ripped away from that, put in jail. Now sit down, listen to me. Then God can speak to them. So it's a great place to win souls. But I did have lots of questions. That's why the title of the book is "Why on Earth Did You Let This Happen? For Heaven's Sake."
Yeah.
You're going to have things in your life where you wonder, God, why? He sees a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. I moved the bishop over here. Yeah.
Are your books in digital format on Kindle as well?
I don't know, Joseph, what's available? Several of them are. I wrote a total of 7. One's in hardback, but is that also available online on our ebook?
I would
You'll
love
see
to
as they
get a
go
hold
through
of
the
that.
series, I morph into get it refined a little better. Simple little letters. Use some, most of them 1 or 2 pages. Writing to different Bible. I'd write to Bible characters, and why did God let this happen? You can write to people in the future. I wrote to John the Baptist, to Philip, Joseph, Cain, Abel, Shem, Bildad, Moses, the castle, the bishop, and the chess master. Page 23. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It kept me sane. Well, some people would argue I never have been sane, but it kept me sane. There they are, right there.
I tell you, man, you need to get on the Joe Rogan Experience. I actually was watching one of your videos, and you were answering a question. Somebody said, "Why haven't you been on the Joe Rogan Experience?" And you said, "I'm keen.
He hasn't
Get me
asked
an
me.
invite." Yeah, that's right. You're like,
I I try not to go on people's shows when I'm not invited. They take that wrong.
Yeah, but you had a great answer. You're like, I'm keen. I'll do it. I just need to be invited. Happy to talk about this sort of stuff with Joe Rogan. And then you listed your number and the extension and how to contact you. And I just thought, I'm definitely going to email this guy. I don't know if he's going to answer me, but I'm definitely going to email. But I honestly, getting the email back, I just, thank you. It was awesome to get a response from you and Joseph, who's helping you. Is he family or works for you or?
No, he's been with our ministry, he and his wife, for about 4 years now. He does all our tech stuff, and his wife does the secretarial stuff, Bobby, and she does the tours of our science center. We have a 12,000 square foot science center based on the 7 days of creation. It's amazing. You got to come see
Yeah,
it.
where is that?
Day one.
Whereabouts are you located?
We're in Lenox, Alabama, straight north of Pensacola, Florida, 70 miles.
Okay.
Lenox only has 30 people. If you type in Lenox, Alabama, your computer's going to laugh at you. Like, what? Yeah. So somebody gave us 140 acres, an old gravel pit up here, and it was nothing here but mud. And God is just it's all done by volunteers and donations. We don't charge anything. We have 17 lakes and ponds for fishing. We have 30 cabins people come stay in. Visitors come
Amazing.
all the time. A family came this morning. There's 3 more families coming here in a few minutes. And I give tours in the Jeep. We got some old Jeeps. We took the doors off and the roof off and give tours, 140 acres, 5 miles of trails. We're building a Noah's Ark, 1/3 scale model,
You're
175 feet long.
kidding.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
go on my show.
awesome.
Go on my show last night. I show pictures of the progress on the Ark. My show's on Rumble and Twitter and Facebook. We're on all the channels, everything except YouTube. They took us off of YouTube about 4 times, but we gave up on them. But all the channels are listed on drdino.com, DRDINO. But go to the show last night. At the beginning, I show some pictures of our Noah's Ark and the progress and what we're trying to do. See, we don't
That's
really have a
awesome.
plan, brother. We don't have a plan around here at all. What I do, I eat a lot of pizza with peanut butter on it before I go to bed. And you wake up at 2 in the morning with wild ideas. That's how I
You
got my
would with
daughter.
that combination.
That's how I got my daughter too. That's another story. And so, this whole place has just been amazing. We don't charge anything; it's free, and we want to strengthen your faith. I tell people, if you'll watch my video series, when you're done, you're going to say, "Wow, the Bible is true." Then about a week later, you're going to sit up in bed in the middle of the night and say, "Oh no, the Bible's true. This changes everything," and it better. You better read that book and do what it says, because he's the boss. He made this place.
Yeah.
So it's just been stunning watching God supply.
I love it. I think we'll end up finishing around about now, but let's finish with one question for you, Dr. Kent. For people that are going into science as a profession, the pressure that they have to run with the mainstream. I just watched the documentary series called an inconvenient study. And they did a study with vax and unvax, and they ended up not publishing it because it didn't fit the agenda. And my thinking is, this is professionals in science that they must have some sort of political agenda or some sort of agenda that they actually ignore sometimes science. What's your advice for future scientists listening to this podcast? How do I keep myself true in science without being pushed one way or the other towards some sort of worldly agenda? Because it happens in almost every field. I mean, the Inconvenient Study documentary is very scary. Yeah.
There are many examples in the Bible where people had this exact same problem. Moses was raised from the time he was a baby in Egypt by Pharaoh's daughter. He learned all the heathen practices of Egypt. He learned all about the thousands of gods that they have. They worship the frog, for heaven's sake, He learned all that as a kid. And he came out and wrote. We edited Genesis, but he wrote Exodus, Leviticus. God used him in a great way. You can make it through the brainwashing school. You can. Joseph raised up in Egypt. People raised up in Babylon. Daniel, captive and taken to Babylon. You can go through the heathen system and come out loving God and believe in the Bible. Now, what I recommend students do, if you're in school and they have a test question that says, "How old is the Earth?" You write on the answer, "The textbook says 4.6 billion. However, this is stupid." They know you learned you learn the material. They can make you learn it. They can't make you believe it. So
that's good. That's a good answer, actually.
Stick by the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, Dr. Kent, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you. So, everybody listening, please go check out Dr. Kent. Do you want to do a plug for all of your books? Maybe not all of them, could be here a while. But all the things that you're doing, things that you want our listeners to check out. We'll also, if we can get Joseph to send me through anything that you want in the description below, and I'll make sure I include all that.
Yeah, we have lots of books and videos, materials. They're all on drdino.com. You can go there or our website. You can copy my material, spread it around. Don't sell it. Okay, it's my stuff. I'm giving you permission to copy it and give it away for free, but you're not going to have permission to sell it. That's my intellectual property. And so, yeah, please do. Or you better yet, come visit our Dinosaur Adventureland. We have a bookstore here. You can see all the stuff right there. And our science center is amazing. Our theme park, we have the world's largest horseshoe crab model, 67 feet long. Somebody gave us. It's amazing down there. The only problem we have, brother, if you come, I need to warn you, we have well water. And a lot of people don't know this, but I taught biology for 15 years. And if you drink well water, your babies will be born naked. So be prepared. Is that okay? Yeah. Anyway,
Brilliant.
yeah, it's free. I want to strengthen your faith. There's a war going on. Okay. It's not time to build castles. It's the time to, buy bullets. Okay. For the war. We want to help. You can call me, like my number, 855 Big Dino, extension 3. A show you saw where I gave out that number. I bet I got 30 phone calls a day for the next week. Is this really Kent Hovind?
And my email.
You answered. Yeah. They say, you answered the phone? I said, well, it rang.
Yeah.
This has been my life for 30-some years, brother. People calling. I love it. My daughter was one of my secretaries. I was in Pensacola. And she said, Dad, would you do my wedding? I said, honey, I'd be glad to do your wedding. It's only 1 minute long. It's been played 50 times on America's Funniest Home Videos.
Really?
If you get a chance, type in Kent Hovind's daughter's wedding. Yeah. I won't spoil it for you. Just watch it. 50 seconds. You can handle that. Edit that in here. Edit it in here if you want.
I will. I'll put that in. Awesome.
Anyway,
well, thank you,
come visit. Now, someone told me that the New Zealand women never argue, never complain, always romantic. Is that true? Or is that a different island?
Yes.
It must be a different island.
I have to say that my wife might be able to hear me.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Kent. Bless you, and thanks for coming on the Jesus Magnet podcast.
Amen. Thank you, brother. All right. Bye-bye. Paul and you, Marlissa, have freely and deliberately chosen each other and have openly declared your desire to be united in marriage. Yet in the presence of God and these witnesses, you've pledged your love for each other. Hello? Yes, Lord. No, I wasn't calling you, but okay. The Lord says He would like you to know that what He has joined together, let no man put asunder. Paul, you may kiss your bride, He says.